What is up, everybody? My name is Hector Flores, host of the Insert Name FC podcast and member of the Belly Up Sports Media Network. You can find us on all things podcasting, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get us, you will find us there. Jesus Christ, I can't say words right now. Full video version of this episode is also on Belly Up's YouTube channel. Wow, really drawing blanks here. Full video version is available on Belly Up's YouTube channel, so just search Belly Up Sports, and you'll find us there as well. So that's how you can find us. This episode 256, might be a pretty short episode, honestly. I'm not going to lie to you. But in this episode, we're going to talk about what's going on with the Vancouver Whitecaps. We're going to talk about what's going on there, the whole save the caps, I guess you can say. We're also going to talk about USL. They're going through their CBA, and we're going to talk about some changes, some updates on that whole thing and kind of what's been going on with the USL. And Real Madrid being linked to a certain manager that I'm not necessarily thrilled by. So also that as well. Give you guys players of the week and then some matches to look forward to this weekend. To highlight, the big one is obviously the second leg of the Liga MX playoffs. So there is that. And then obviously end this show with Give and Go. So Give and Go is an awesome soccer card game. It is like kind of like Cards Against Humanity, except there's like topics. So it's more it's more maybe not like maybe not like Cards Against Humanity, but it's just a card game. You just draw a card, and there's either a discussion or a challenge or just a random task like flick your ear or something like that. So there's some cool things here. Obviously, in these episodes, anything that involves just discussion based, that's what we'll feature from this card game. Anything else will not be featured just for obvious reasons. But so pretty straightforward episode. Like I said, might be a short one this week. Some other things I might need to discuss as well, but we'll get there when we get there. We'll get there to the end. All right. So with all that being said, man, we're gonna take one break. Not one break. We're gonna take a break, and then we'll go right into headlines. Let me tell you guys about Belly Up Sports. Belly Up Sports is the internet sports bar. Go ahead and check out their website, www.bellyupsports.com, to read some great articles from great writers all across the country, from hockey, baseball, golf, soccer, you name it. Belly Up Sports is the premier, not your average website. All right, guys. So the big thing that's happening right now with Major League, actually, it's been going on for a while, and it's going on with the Vancouver Whitecaps. If you guys obviously remember, Vancouver was the team that unfortunately lost in the MLS Cup final, but for quite some time, the ownership has been trying to sell the team. They are no longer interested in continuing on with the ownership, and it's honestly, there's a lot of challenges with Vancouver. Mainly just the big thing is just the stadium situation. If you guys aren't fully aware, BC Place, which is the stadium where the Vancouver Whitecaps currently play at, the club has no real control over it, just as far as them just paying a lease towards it. But with that being said, they don't really have necessarily any say in the stadium as far as operations. Plus, they don't really get much money from the stadium itself, obviously, because once again, they don't have ownership of it. And obviously, it leads to bigger issues with the stadium just being like, obviously, a few years ago, they weren't able to host a wild card game because of the fact that the stadium was already having a monster truck rally, which became obviously a butt of a lot of jokes for Vancouver, mainly because of in most scenarios when a professional team gets into the playoffs, and I think Vancouver's in that situation. Obviously, they're not normally a playoff contender, right? So was BC Place really planning on Vancouver to be a playoff team? Probably not. And so that was kind of like the core issue. But kind of similar, there has been teams that maybe the stadium itself, well, the people at the state that are kind of running the operations of the stadium maybe they didn't plan that they would be in the playoffs, but next thing you know, here they are, they're in the playoffs. Um, but what happened was, instead of just changing the date of the monster truck rally, they just decided, hey, just play the wild card game at Portland, even though they were the lower seed team and didn't earn the right to have a home playoff game. They gave it to them anyways, which obviously at the end didn't end up meaning anything because Vancouver went ahead and won that game. But at the same time, still, that was kind of one of the issues with Vancouver, is just that stadium. Now they have been in talks for getting their own stadium, but like unfortunately, the proposals have just not worked out for that new soccer specific stadium for Vancouver, which has kind of been the issue where they're trying to find a new ownership group to come in that, you know, ideally would prefer to stay in Vancouver. But like I said, the Vancouver Whitecaps have been up for sale since 2024, and honestly, since then, Vancouver has become a team. They have been a really good team in MLS. They have been viewed now as probably one of the more complete teams in Major League Soccer. Obviously, made it to the final of the Triple C, and then made it to the final MLS Cup. So as far as them earning their right to be considered a good club, one of the best clubs in MLS, it's really happening for them. And it's crazy to think that they're going through this ordeal of, you know, a new owner. And it's very common. I think, you know, at the end of the day, it's a very common thing. The good thing for the ownership group, right, is like the fact that now you have a winning product on the field. It does at least increase the market value for the sale, right? But at the end of the day, they're still trying to find a new owner, and preferably someone that would want to stay in Vancouver. And I keep emphasizing that part because there's really no, as far as I know, as far as any suitors, most of them either don't have the essential funds to get that new stadium, or most of them are people that are planning to move the Vancouver Whitecaps out of Vancouver. And obviously it's been kind of stagnant since, until kind of now. Because there has been an offer that I think is a bid that's kind of very much being considered right now. And while there's actually two possible relocation that are looking as like favorite contenders, and that is Las Vegas and Phoenix, Arizona. Now, Phoenix, Arizona has been a place where MLS has been looking for quite some time. You know, obviously you have Phoenix Rising over there. I'm sure they've put their bids many a times to make it to the MLS, and I'm gonna get to my thoughts on this part, but so Phoenix is obviously has been a destination, and then more and more Las Vegas. Everyone's just trying to bring a team into Las Vegas. Obviously, you have the Golden Knights, the hockey team. You know, the Oakland Athletics are eventually going to go to Las Vegas. You have the Raiders now in Las Vegas. So Las Vegas has become kind of like a destination now. And I do see the logic into why an MLS team should be in Las Vegas. But I think, especially with the ownership group, that the group that's really coming in strong for the Las Vegas move, which is the Gustafson group, which learning some research of the, at least the son. I don't remember his name off the top of my head, but he has like a lot of ties to University of Southern California. He actually was a big push for NIL in USC as far as their basketball team goes. And obviously USC has, I think, been, sorry for snoring. No, sorry for snoring. Sorry for yawning. You know, at least from what I recall, I'm not really big in college basketball, but from what I recall, have been at least in the tournament, the big, you know, March Madness tournament for quite some time now. So, you know, the kid definitely this, and he's 30 years old, so very young. Definitely knows his way about how to, you know, get, I guess, deals done. And obviously, the big thing right now is that they are pushing to build a 50 person stadium of 50 seat per a stadium that sits 50,000. It will be soccer specific, and it'll be once again in Vegas. I'm assuming it's going to be a closed stadium, more probably similar to like the stadium that they have for the Las Vegas Raiders. Um, and that seems to be the strongest bid. That seems to be the bid that's really kind of winning people over. Obviously, people don't want this. MLS fans don't want to see this, and it's kind of the unfortunate thing with MLS, but Major League Soccer, because it's not an open system. It's not like this is kind of one of the flaws of promotion of like not having promotion relegation, because building clubs is through the franchise model, very similar to what NFL, NBA, NHL, the rest of the American sports leagues, like it's all about franchise. It's all about the franchise model. If you have the funds to buy the team, build the team, as far if it's an expansion team or if you could just buy out the team, relocation is a very common thing in the United States. Prime example, I just mentioned the Raiders, right? Raiders have moved multiple times. They've moved from Oakland to Los Angeles. They've moved back to Oakland. Now they moved to Las Vegas. The Rams, were in LA, then went to St. Louis, then went back to LA. Los Angeles Chargers were once the San Diego Chargers. The Tennessee Titans were once upon a time the Houston Oilers. Not just using NFL, but NBA, prime example in the MLB, the Washington Nationals were once the Montreal Expos, an iconic MLB team, right? And people still to this day wish the Montreal Expos were still very much in existence. NBA, you move the Seattle Supersonics to Oklahoma to be the Oklahoma City Thunder. You moved the Vancouver Grizzlies to Memphis. The New Orleans, the Utah Jazz was once the New Orleans Jazz, which that makes a lot more sense. Hell, the Los Angeles Lakers were used to be were originally from Minneapolis. That's why they were called the Lakers, because Minnesota has like the Great Lakes, right? They're part of the Great Lakes, so that's why they were the Lakers. The Houston Rockets were originally from San Diego. Teams have moved everywhere, even back in the day, like Arizona Cardinals were once the Chicago Cardinals, I believe. Even going through the history, like relocation has just always been a thing in American sports. Now, obviously in football, we've seen some cases, right? Like, Mazatlan was once Monarcas Morelia, right? I believe that was the team. They were a relocation team. There's some history in football, obviously not as massive as what we're seeing here with Major League Soccer. And Major League Soccer has had a few. Well, the last relocation team is unfortunately my Houston Dynamo. Houston Dynamo were the San Jose Earthquakes. San Jose Earthquakes ended up moving to Houston. Obviously Houston rebranded them as the Houston Dynamo. And to be fair, while it still was a big shock to the rest of the MLS world, like obviously most of us embraced it. Obviously, I became a Houston Dynamo supporter, but we didn't take San Jose's history. San Jose's history stayed in San Jose, and then obviously eventually they were granted an expansion team, and the San Jose Earthquakes were back. And a few seasons ago, during the pandemic, we saw kind of something similar happening, which was Columbus Crew Precourt trying to move the Columbus Crew to Austin to start Austin FC, which eventually the owners of the Cleveland Browns ended up buying Columbus Crew to keep them in Columbus, and eventually we did have Austin FC. So and obviously that was done with the whole Save the Crew movement, which a lot of Major League Soccer fans, not just Columbus Crew fans, but fans of the MLS, stood firm and made it abundantly clear that they did not want uh, the Crew to move to Austin. They, obviously the Columbus Crew, one of the original clubs in MLS. So they didn't want another original to move out. You know, and I mean, if you think about it, we had some teams from MLS that ended up, disbanding, right? The Miami Fusion, the Tampa Bay Mutiny. Um, those are some teams that are no longer in MLS. Obviously, we have Inter Miami now, but they don't have the Miami Fusion's history. But it's kind of the thing that like these aren't like I like I touched up on it on MLS on Wake Up MLS where like these aren't clubs, they're franchises. That's the unfortunate thing. Like that, there's like so many things that they're still trying to. Like I said, man, Major League Soccer is in this thing where they're trying to have the sport make sense to the fan that loves football, right? The American that loves football, but also to have it make sense for the American sports fan. And American sports fans, they know franchise. They know franchises. They look. It's not like I'm not saying that sports fans like when a team moves, right? But they understand the reasoning behind the move, and they get the logic, right? Like Las Vegas is a prime example, but uh, yeah, it's still not something that people are excited about. There's people that, like St. Louis, right? For example, they were fans of the St. Louis Rams. They got to watch, Kurt Warner, lead them to a Super Bowl, right? The greatest show on turf, right? That's what that St. Louis Rams team was. So a lot of people grew up in the St. Louis market. They were very proud Rams fans, and then for Stan Kroenke to just pull it under the rug from them and move them to Los Angeles, a city that honestly, I will be honest to tell you, man, maybe are not the most authentic Rams fans. And it's kind of hard because they've been without a football team for so many years. So some of them are Cowboys fans, some of them are Eagles fans, some of them are Niners fans, Chargers fans, Oakland Raiders fans. So like there was a challenge there. You took a and for the sport, for football, the big thing is just that, and I'm talking about football, not American football, but in football, like these clubs are built around communities. Um, and Vancouver has is it's not like Vancouver is just been in MLS. They have a deep history in North American football culture. The Cascadia rivalry. The reason why it's a Cascadia rivalry is because those Portland and Seattle and Vancouver have been playing against each other for years. So it's very much part of the community. And I'm not gonna lie to you. One of the big things with me has always been where, and I understand that Major League Soccer probably offers a little more to the Canadian teams. When obviously Montreal, Toronto, and Vancouver, it probably offers them a lot more. Being it's just probably more competitive to them versus the Canadian Premier League. But I think for those teams, for their sake, I think honestly, in the long haul, if they're able to go to the Canadian Premiership and play there and maybe increase the value of that league, it probably is for the long run better for them, better chances of qualifying for CONCACAF Champions Cup, all those things. But I think obviously it just improves the product of one, the Canadian Premier League, but secondly, it gives those teams a lot more freedom to do things more than what they want to do. I don't know the rules for the Canadian Premier League as far as player acquisitions. I don't know if they do a draft. I don't think they do. And I think that's a route that where if you in the long haul will probably benefit Vancouver, probably benefit Toronto, and probably benefit Montreal more if they do go back to if they just go to the Canadian Premier League and build their clubs. I don't know if there's a salary cap with the rosters. Obviously, the Canadian Premier League is probably a little bit not as financial stable as MLS is, but if you imagine if you can get Vancouver and Toronto and Montreal there, it's gonna at least increase the value of the league, and who's to say that they can't rival with the likes of MLS and Liga MX. But that's a whole different topic for another day. But right now they're in MLS. They're an MLS team. Um, and the Save the Caps movement, which is very similar to the Save the Crew movement. Obviously, the big thing is that they do want to find new ownerships. They want owners that want to be there, right? And that's the unfortunate thing right now. The owners that are currently at Vancouver don't want to be there. They probably have tried to fight the good fight. I'm not trying to stand by them or anything like that, but like they have attempted they've tried to build a new stadium in Vancouver, and it just didn't pan out. And I think the big thing is, that's the challenge right now, to stay in Vancouver. And I think very much so MLS wants to keep the Vancouver Caps in Vancouver. But obviously it has to make sense. It has to make financial sense for them to stay put. If they're able to get that stadium, because the big thing is right now that BC Place, they just don't have as much control, they don't get a piece of that pie from BC Place. I mean, like I said, one of the most egregious things to me is that whole monster truck rally over an MLS playoff game. It is it's unacceptable, because you're talking about you essentially gave up home field advantage for a monster truck rally, where you could have probably rescheduled that monster truck rally. There was no rescheduling the playoff game. Like, the playoff game was going to happen that day regardless of whether it was going to be played in BC Place or it was going to be played in Portland. And unfortunately, it got played in Portland. I mean, fortunately enough, it worked out in favor of Vancouver, because they ended up moving on to the next round. But at the same time, like, it's still like, dude, like, what does that tell you about BC Place? And I believe BC Place is owned by the government or some local government or something like that. And for them to tell you that they're telling you all these things that they need the Vancouver Whitecaps to stay put, right? But then, like, you do that in your stadium, and I get it. The venue is the venue, and you planned that accordingly. At least you thought you did. But, like, prime example, the Houston Astros, right? And I know a lot of people love when I talk about the Houston Astros, but like, when the Astros, in 2015, they weren't expected to be in a playoff team. They made the playoffs, and then they had to push back a Taylor Swift concert because the Astros were going to be in the playoffs. They were going to be in October baseball, and Taylor Swift had to find another day to and Taylor Swift accommodated. So either you're telling me that the monster truck, whatever Monster Jam is not capable, is not as good as Taylor Swift, his scheduling abilities. Does Taylor Swift care more about sports teams than Monster Jam? I mean, then I'll agree to that. But yeah, obviously, it's right now still a bid. It's not an official thing. But obviously, it looks very strong that Vancouver, if it does get bought out by Gustafson, that they're going to be making the move to Las Vegas. And obviously, I don't want to see that. As much as I do eventually think that we're going to have to see a team. And honestly, the big thing with me is, if MLS continues to keep expanding the way that they are, they're going to have to start considering building a pyramid. Whether it's building the pyramid within themselves, or buying somebody else out to get that pyramid more structured. Because if you're there is a team in Las Vegas. At least last time I checked, there was a team in Las Vegas already, and I believe they currently play in the USL. But like there is a team in Las Vegas, and like, the big thing is MLS could just move away from this franchise model. Move away from it, because if there was to be promotion relegation, and I'm not saying that it's going to happen, but I'm just saying, if there is going to be promotion relegation, the cheaper route, instead of buying a team, and obviously then you're not going to be able to just buy teams and be automatically in the MLS. You can start small, be local, play in the lower ranks, and then as you're building and investing on the team, you could eventually build a team that's going to compete in Major League Soccer. I would like to see that happen one day, but I just don't see it happening. At least right now, not in the near future. Maybe further down the road, because once again, this league is so young. that we don't know what this league's going to be in a few years down the road. But yeah, no, I feel for the Whitecaps, especially because like right now they're doing so well. They're doing all the right things. They're it was interesting that they were able to get Thomas Mueller to come into this team because of just what was going on with the whole ownership stake. Like, that you didn't even know. Like, the whole conversation of Vancouver potentially moving has always been discussed, like, since they were being up for sale. And it's because the big part is just the stadium situation. It's really that. Now, if they can talk to BC Place and find a solution where they can, one, use BC Place, but two, get a piece of the pie from BC Place, then this could be a whole thing avoided. I think that's probably the easier solution. Hey guys, this is Hector from the Insert Name FC podcast, here to tell you guys about Canada Dips. It is a great tasting, superior alternative to traditional dip using CBD in a way that is radical, enjoyable, and effective. It comes in 5 core flavors: wintergreen, mint, citrus, mango, and American spice. Canada Dip CBD is the new evolution in dip, allowing guys to enjoy great, long-lasting taste without the downsides. If you guys want to go ahead and try them out, use the code BELLYUP20 at CanadaDipCBD.com. Once again, BELLYUP20 at CanadaDipCBD.com, and you'll get yourself 20% off your purchase. Thank you again for Canada Dips for being a great partner of Belly Up Sports. Is to kind of find an agreement with BC Place, like to renew a lease with them where it bodes well for Vancouver that they get something from using the venue, or they can build a stadium. And I don't know if the city of Vancouver is capable of it. That's why I think that they're trying to get an owner that is willing to pay up to build that new stadium. And obviously it's not just one person, right? It's ownership groups, right? If you usually bring in a group of people to make these deals happen. And obviously the big name that everyone's looking at is Vancouver native Ryan Reynolds, right? But obviously with him having Wrexham, him also having a stake in Necaxa, I believe they also got a league in Spain, a team in Spain. I don't remember what team it is. But he already has like a lot of football clubs on his portfolio. Where, I mean, it would be cool. It would be cool to see him have like Vancouver just to get a celebrity in there. I know they have Steve Nash at the time, but I believe he's also looking to be sold. He's looking to get his stake bought. But like, it would be cool to see, because I mean, right now where you look at Houston Dynamo, right? They got James Harden. You look at Philadelphia, they have Kevin Durant. Reese Witherspoon has a stake in Nashville, right? So like we're seeing it here in Major League Soccer, and I think it'd be cool if in a perfect world, right? It'd be awesome if Ryan Reynolds can, pony up some cash and help out Vancouver. But in reality, I don't think he is, because also I believe he's trying to bring an MLB team, because MLB is also looking to expand. And I think Vancouver is being looked at as one of those potential landing spots for Major League Baseball. So I don't know. I really don't know. It's unfortunate that this is happening. Like I said, it's a team that's doing really well. Normally when teams are getting sold, it's usually because they're not doing very well. And at this point, in order just trying to make up for his loss, I mean, kind of similar to Houston Dynamo, right? Where the Houston Dynamo was just egregiously bad. You had an ownership group that just frankly did not care. And you got Ted Siegel, who may or may not care about this team. I really don't know yet. But he has taken some big leaps to at least improve the stadium quality. He has, brought in a GM that he feels is the guy that can push this team forward. And I mean, say what you want, but the team has been better over the years that they were really bad. So, I mean, I can't really say too much, but I mean, at the end of the day, like, I don't know. I would much rather see Vancouver stay in Vancouver. Maybe one day they go into the Canadian Premier League. I just think for the sake of sense, that to make it make sense, like have them play over there. But I get why they would stay in Major League Soccer. And I'll also touch up on this just because like it caused, weirdly enough, a lot of controversy. In the Wake Up MLS, I made a joke of and I called the Vancouver Whitecaps the Vegas Whitecaps, and apparently it pissed people off. I'm not gonna apologize for the joke because the joke was a joke. It was I didn't. I am not in all favor of Vancouver moving to Vegas, so it was literally a joke. But people will you know just take that for face value and make assumptions about a person from that. And so that this isn't me apologizing. I stand by what words I said, because I don't think I said anything that would promote at all that I'm supporting the move. As a matter of fact, if you went further into the video, you would eventually hear me talk about the one of the big flaws of Major League Soccer, which is the franchise model. And so yeah, I don't apologize. I maybe could have reacted better, but at that point, I can give two shits about someone that is probably not even a Vancouver Whitecaps fan to begin with. But to each his own. If you guys don't see what's going on with Major League Soccer, that it is a franchise model and it's about who has the money, and money is always going to be it's football in general. Money revolves around it's always going to be money. The answer is always going to be money at the end of the day. And if you can't see that, and you can't see why someone would want to move a team regardless of the history of that team, because once again, these billionaires, these millionaires, they don't care. They don't. They know where the money is, and they know that the money's in Vegas. If they don't see the money in Vancouver, they're not going to stay in Vancouver. Now, I don't want them to leave Vancouver. I'm going to say that again. But at this point, we are where we are. Like I said, it's not official. Don Garber has gone over to discuss with the people of BC to try to get something concrete, at least to find a way to keep Vancouver there. If it works, great. If not, then I mean, it's the reality. It's not, this is, to me, this isn't as different. This is way different from what happened with Save the Crew, because Precourt was very much the owner. He didn't buy the team. He was looking to, I don't know what was the reason, but he ended up wanting to move to Austin. I believe it was similarly was a stadium issue. But eventually they did get a new stadium. Yeah, so talk about historical reference, right? The old Columbus Crew Stadium, that was the birthplace of Dos Acero, right? So there's similarities, of course. There's similarities, but I think there's vast differences. One, Columbus Crew wasn't for sale. At least not originally. They weren't for sale. Luckily, thanks to Save the Crew, Precourt ended up not moving and then got bought out by the Haslam's. Was it the Haslam? Whatever the family that owns the Cleveland Browns. The big thing with this one is that this team has been up for sale. They haven't been able to find a suitor for the team because all of them just don't have the resources to keep the team in Vancouver. And the people that are making these massive bids now are guys that have the plan of moving Vancouver elsewhere, whether it's Phoenix or whether it's Vegas. They are very much, that's what they're planning on doing. And clearly, MLS hasn't accepted any of these bids because of the fact that because that's what they are, they're bids. They're not concrete yet. But because they are very much trying to keep the team in the stadium, and maybe save the Caps can help. Maybe that, once again, showing that the fans have a say, have a voice, is going to show that we can move on from the franchise model and more to the club model. The club model being that it's about the communities around the club, and I would hope for that. I really do. I'm not gonna tell you I'm a Save the Caps guy, just because of after dealing with from a joke that I made. I really don't care. Once again, but I do not want to see the Whitecaps move. Personally, I don't. The Whitecaps, it's unfair to the people of Vancouver. It's unfair to the players of Vancouver. And I know this is hypocritical coming from a Houston Dynamo fan who his team wouldn't have existed if it wasn't for a move. The team moving, the San Jose Earthquakes moving. but at the same time, like Vancouver has done something. They're a winning product now, and I think maybe it'd be a different discussion if the Vancouver Whitecaps were bad. I personally think it would be. Um, but right now it's just not an ideal situation. So, um, that's really all I have left to say on this topic. I think as things progress, because right now it's just a bid, but as things progress, maybe there's more to talk about. But here we are right now. This is what's going on right now. Like I said, I hope that Vancouver doesn't move, but if it happens, this is the reality of Major League Soccer. It is a franchise model. It is not a club model. Until one day we finally decide to make it a club model, maybe that we're not going to have these issues. But once again, we never know. We never know. We never know till the things actually happen. So there is that. But all right. Speaking of another American league, the USL. So let's talk about something that's been ongoing as well. So obviously we had a while back we had a cup final, and it sparked a discussion, which obviously everyone knows that USL is going to start a promotion relegation system. So they're going to try to be an open system, kind of the club model. So this is where a league that is in fact doing the club model, where you can start in the lower leagues and build your way up to be a strong team. And I mean, we talked to Matt Poland from FC Naples, a team that currently is in USL League One. Once it's official promotion relegation's open, who's to say that team doesn't move up to the championship, and all the way, vice versa for all the teams that are in League Two. Like, we'll see who gets up and who benefits from it and who we lose, because we've already had some teams are no longer in the USL, are ceased to exist because of just finance issues. But in the final, you had players wearing shirts, essentially showing their displeasurement right now with the league. And the big thing is just that the conditions right now for the players are just not ideal. It's just not. It's not ideal for them, especially. And they essentially said, who cares about promotion relegation when I'm not making, I'm barely, getting by, So, and it really brought up a lot of conversations, like where it's like, okay, USL is doing this thing that everyone's obviously wanting to see in the American sport, in American football, and that is not that American football, but like football here in America. To see them finally have promotion relegation, and you're seeing USL do it, and some people are like, oh, I hope this works out so that way maybe USL becomes the superior league versus the MLS, or maybe if MLS sees that the promotion relegation model does in fact work here in the United States, and they can see a cheaper option for people that want to start clubs here in the United States, well, then they can buy out the USL, and now you have a structured pyramid from top to bottom, and it's going to be no more the franchise model. You're now going to have people that are going to have to buy from the bottom and work their way up to become an MLS club, and we'll see who really does care about the league more so than their finances, because with promotion relegation, obviously it affects the finances that you can use for players, contracts, and all those things. And so with all that being said, obviously, but seeing players having issues, not so much with the promotion relegation part, but more so the player's living situation, right? The player's situation was not ideal. And so because of that, they obviously had their little form of protest in the final of all places. And they have now been ongoing with negotiations for a CBA, which the CBA, which I believe expires at the end of the year, the current one that they have. So they've been in discussions for a new CBA, collective bargaining agreement, which is an agreement between the players and the owners of how things are going to be conducted throughout the league, as far as how players are going to be treated in order for them to play. And in this new agreement, currently this is the new agreement as of right now, but it's currently being ratified by the players. So the players are looking through it, seeing what they like, what they don't like, what they want more from. But this is probably like the best it's been in over these discussions. Once again, it's been going on for 2 years now. This is kind of where they have liked it. And right now, so this current CBA is looked at as a 5-year deal. So what's going to be agreed upon is guaranteed to last 5 years with a potential 6-year option if they choose to pick it up. Now, I don't know if that's going to be based on the owners or if that's based on the players, if they choose to opt in for that 6-year option. But that is something to take into consideration. But the big thing is that there's going to be no more in-season buyouts. I'm intrigued on what that meant because I wasn't sure. And if I were to assume what I think it is, it's kind of similar to the NBA where a team trades for a player and then just buys out his contract and they're a free agent. I'm guessing that's what it means, where you just buy out a player's contract and just let him go on. I don't know if that's the case. Maybe not, but I guess this is to protect players. Because I think while being a buyout may sound like not a bad deal, but you're talking about this guy now is whatever they have is what they have. There's no stability. There's no benefits for them for that player. At least that's what I'm assuming. I'm assuming this. This isn't me knowing what that meant essentially, but the big thing was also protection for players' contracts in the scenario of a club not existing. And obviously the big thing that happened was North Carolina FC, a big staple in USL for quite some time, they disbanded. And so all the players that were there that were under contract, now they don't know if they're going to get paid anymore because the club no longer exists. So this was something that the players were really fighting for, was to protect those guys because they have no control when the club doesn't have money. When they become bankrupt, they don't have control of that situation. So the league has to protect those players because now, some of these guys have families. Some of these guys, are not from the United States. So now they're taking a big risk to leave what they know is home, and club disbands. And now what do? It's a scary thing. And so even though they didn't really talk about North Carolina FC, that was obviously the big reason why. So because of what happened over there for North Carolina FC, the team just didn't exist. Just out of nowhere, poof, they're gone. And so it's about protection of those guys, the guys that they don't have control of what happens with the club. Their only job is to play. And so I think that was a good thing that the players fought for, and they got it. Which is great. Another thing was a minimum of $42K. So the league minimum now for a player's contract is $42,000, which sounds like a lot, at least to a regular person. Like $42K, that sounds, I believe that's for the year. So, but in most places that's pretty livable, depending on where you live. But that's big. That's the minimum. So that's the minimum a team can pay for a player, because I believe that it used to be a lot lower what they were paying these players. So this is livable, right? So like a guy that, especially a guy that maybe just got out of college. This is essentially 20 an hour if you a little bit over 20 an hour for those of you who live in the United States. Wow, that sounds like regular, like entry level pay, which kind of that's what it is. But in the long run, depending on where these guys live, 42K is probably pretty good if you live in Alabama or like some of these smaller towns that a lot of these USL teams are located in. Like, that's not a bad situation. Or maybe for some of these guys, you get a roommate, you get in a place together. Now that money can take you a long way. So I think that was a good thing. The big thing also was they were talking about health benefits. There were a big push for health insurance for these players, not only for these players, but their families. And so the league ended up agreeing to it, but they decided that the health insurance would be based on what full-time employees get in the club. So they're getting the same insurance that a full-time employee will get in the club, which, essentially that's what they are. They're a full-time employee, even though they're contracted. They are, every single day they're going to the training ground every single day they're in the facility just as much as that full-time employee is. So I think that that's a really good place to go. Give them their benefits. Like, they need to be covered, their families need to be covered. So I think that was a good addition, good thing to fight for. They have added 4 entry level slots, and essentially these are players that are like U23, so very entry level. So the minimum for them is 35K, which I understand. Maybe some people are like, "Hey, that's like 15 an hour." I'm gonna go there. I think it's like 15 an hour. So, and I get that, but once again, a lot of these MLS teams are in smaller towns, so that could, and then also the same thing, you get some roommates. It does stretch out a little bit better for you. So, and this is only for only 4 players get put on these entry level slots. So that means the rest of the team gets 42K. So, and these are U23 players. So these are guys that honestly for them 35K looks like a lot of money to them. So it might, once again, in the long haul, it probably works out. And this could also be awarded to like an academy product, a local kid who maybe still lives with his family. So it's not as egregious as you think it is. Once again, USL, they don't have the resources as like MLS does, and that's saying a lot because don't get me started with the whole how much I was getting covered, my whole ordeal with Major League Soccer. Maybe one day I'll go more into it, but right now that's not the conversation. But these are the things that they were fighting for. Now, also what was discussed was obviously in the event that the team gets promoted into the USL Championship, and I believe they opened up like the entry level slots to, which I believe they add more entry level slots, which I believe goes like from 4 to 6, and then I believe minimum wage gets jumped up to, at least for everybody, the minimum wage that you could pay a player, I believe it like gets bumped up to 56K. So there's an incentive to get promoted, right? So like, if you're that guy that has that $42,000 contract, you get promoted up to the championship. Guess what? You got bumped up. You got bumped up another 14K, right? If we're doing the whole I don't think 56K was the number, but I'm just gonna assume that that's the word. You just got bumped up because now your minimum pay is now going to be whatever it is for USL Championship. So there's an incentive to get promoted, and just as much an incentive to not get relegated. And I don't know if that's gonna. I think maybe that's a similar thing's gonna happen with USL League 1. I mean League 2. So if you get dropped down, does that drop your slots and does that drop your minimum wage? So, and I think that helps in some aspect because of the fact that like, when you get down to a lower level, you're gonna lose resources. So if you can pay your players less, it benefits the club. So I do think that that's where it has to be one of those where when both sides can benefit from it. Obviously, when you and it makes sense, right? You go down, you should be making less. When you go up, you should be making more. So prime example, this needs to be squared away. This needs to be taken care of because once again, like the players cannot be disgruntled when you're trying to do this big thing about we're gonna have promotion relegation in our league, and everyone's like, oh, look at USL, what they're doing the right thing, they're finally gonna we're finally gonna see a pyramid here in the United States. This is what we need to see, and then you have players that are like, I don't give a rat's ass, sorry for Cousin Kelsey, about this stupid promotion relegation. Make sure I can feed my family. That's what I care about. And so, it's big. I think honestly, it's a really big thing. Obviously, right now the players are looking at it, seeing what else they can tweak. Because I think once again they need to make sure that it's fair for them.
Righteous Felon Craft Jerky is the official jerky of Belly Up Sports. For over a decade, Righteous Felon Craft Jerky has led the American meat snack revolution by concocting delicious, adventurous, U.S.-sourced jerky recipes for uncompromising carnivores across the country. With 15 different flavors to choose from, Righteous Felon has all jerky lovers covered, and by using promo code BELLYUP, you will get 15% off your purchase at RighteousFelon.com. Do your taste buds a favor today and rip into a bag of Righteous Felon Jerky.
As much as it's got to be fair for the owners, but the players have to be able to accept these conditions and know what they're getting, and knowing that, because if they set this here now, if they set it where it's good right now, that means come 5 years down the road, maybe 6 years down the road, when they once again renegotiate for another CBA, it's gonna get better, and hopefully right when the league is getting more eyes on them, because at this point, by the time we get to 5-6 years, promotion relegations at least should be thriving in USL. And if it's not, then that's gonna be a whole different conversation. But once again, like, I think if you're Major League Soccer, you're monitoring this, right? You're monitoring this because once again, everyone wants to see promotion relegation in Major League Soccer at some point. And if USL shows that it can work, like I said, two things can happen. Two things should happen. One, MLS decides to build their own pyramid within themselves, especially as they're constantly trying to expand the league. Or two, they just buy USL and now you have your pyramid. And you just have to find a way to talk to all these club owners that, like, hey, all these franchise owners that, hey, this is it. We're doing promotion relegation. If you're in it, cool. If not, sell your fucking team. Sorry for cussing, Kelsey. Sell your team and to a guy that wants to be part of this. Because yes, if your team's not good enough, they get relegated down. You're gonna lose money. So start giving a crap about your team, and let's see who can build a strong club. So like I said, we should be monitoring USL. If you're an American and you like soccer here in the United States, football in the United States, you should be monitoring the USL. They're trying to do promotion relegation, and if they can keep the players happy, if they can make the league watchable, and they can showcase that people do in fact want promotion relegation in this sport here in the United States, if they can showcase that, MLS is going to be in a tough situation where they have to either buy the USL or actually in fact start making the change happen in their league. So it is a lot of those factors coming in, and hopefully it works out, man. I really do. I hope it does work out, because I do want to see promotion relegation happen in this league. In Major League Soccer, I really do want to see it, and it needs to happen. But there is that. And then the final headline is Jose Mourinho. For some reason, it is rumored that Florentino Perez wants to bring in Jose Mourinho. Now, before I get into my whole soapbox about Jose Mourinho, I get the reasons why you would want to bring in Jose Mourinho. And the reason being is that he is a no-nonsense guy. He's not going to just sit there and let the locker room... okay, maybe he will let the locker room become a menace, but the big thing is the players are all going to hate him. So they won't hate each other. So, I mean, if that's what you want to do, I guess I get it. But that's all I get at this point. Jose Mourinho is a no-nonsense guy. He's definitely one of those, like, very much disciplinarian. He's very much, he's at least his intentions would be to get the locker room in line. The problem with Jose Mourinho, amongst a very clear one, and I'll get in that in a bit, but the obvious one is that Jose Mourinho has just been on decline. He hasn't won a league title in 11 years, and his last trophy was the 2002 Europa Conference League. So, not even 4 years ago, but as far as league titles, the guy hasn't won one in 11 years. He got sacked by Fenerbahce. He's been sacked basically everywhere he's been to in quite some time. He's been sacked. He got sacked by Roma. He got sacked by Fenerbahce. And he got sacked by Tottenham. He got sacked. That's all the dude's been doing, has been getting sacked because, especially with Roma, because that was the last team he won a trophy with, was with Roma, which was, once again, it was the Europa Conference League trophy. But, he was there to get Roma back on top of the Serie A, and that was not happening. Europa Conference League is cool, but they want the Serie A. They want a Scudetto, and he just wasn't doing it. Once again, no league titles in 11 years, man. The special one isn't as special as we thought he was. And I mean, and also to mention, the way he left Real Madrid wasn't pretty. It was, players weren't liking him. He, you know, brought in his guys that really didn't work out. He 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 would bring guys in that he would just have on the bench. He never, like, honestly, that he caused a lot of rift. I mean, even what happened between him and Iker Casillas, right? Like, he just, him favoring Diego Lopez, over Iker Casillas. There's just so much things with Jose Mourinho, and honestly, to show for it, one league title. One league title, I believe, a Copa del Rey. Let me see. Jose Mourinho. Let me see what trophies he won with Jose Mourinho's trophies with Real Madrid, because he only has 2 Champions League titles. But let me see. Yeah, so he has 1 league title, 1 La Liga title. He won 1 Copa del Rey and a Spanish Super Cup. That's it. So in his time with Real Madrid, which I believe, how long was he at Real Madrid? No, it wasn't very long. Let me see. He was at Real Madrid from 2010 to 2013. So essentially, I'll say like 3 to 4 seasons, right? He was at 3. I'll say 4 seasons. He was at 4. 2010, 2011, 2011, 2012, 2012, 2013. Yeah. So 3 seasons he was with Real Madrid, and the best he could do was 3 trophies: a league title, a Copa del Rey, and a Spanish Cup. No Champions Leagues. At that point, Real Madrid was still chasing La Décima. So, yeah, no, I mean, like, I really wouldn't consider Jose Mourinho's time at Real Madrid as like a massive success. Like, he didn't. I don't really never felt that he got the better of Pep Guardiola. Yeah, I was never a fan of Jose Mourinho. I was never a fan of the parking the bus. Did he have some good moments? Sure, but like Jose Mourinho, I wouldn't sit here and tell you that he was like the best Real Madrid manager, at all. I would never do that. I would never say that, especially after he left. You had Carlo Ancelotti, who did in fact bring La Decima to the team. He ends up, they end up sacking him. They bring in Zinedine Zidane, who brings you the three-peat. You bring back Carlo Ancelotti, who does end up winning another Champions League and wins La Liga. So I think that, like, and obviously, now we are where we are. I don't know. I don't think that Jose Mourinho can really do anything. I think his time with big clubs is just over. I think he's at Benfica. I think Benfica clearly wants him at Benfica. And also I would mention the whole thing with Benfica. The whole thing with the whole racial situation, or apparently it was. So it turns out, at least a whole update on the Piastrini. I think that was the name of the player. Apparently the player didn't call Vinicius Jr. a monkey. Apparently he called him a homophobic slur, because that's apparently better. So, and then once again, you had Jose Mourinho talking to Vinicius Jr., telling him that he shouldn't have celebrated. Like, he brought this upon himself. He was. You think Vinicius wants that guy in the locker room? You think any of those players in Real Madrid wants that guy in the locker room? The guy that was like telling Vinicius Jr. that if he didn't celebrate the way he was celebrating, he wouldn't have been called a monkey. That's the guy Florentino Perez feels the club needs. No player is gonna respect him. Jude Bellingham isn't gonna respect him. Trent Alexander-Arnold's not gonna respect him. No one's gonna respect Jose Mourinho in Real Madrid. At least no one should. Not because of just the fact that he's on decline, but the comments he made on the whole Benfica thing with Piastrini. And I'm just assuming I'm saying this guy's name right, because I don't remember his name at this point. Let me just be sure. Great podcasting. Is it Piastrini? Prestiani. So yeah, like the whole Prestiani thing. You know, is that what you want? I don't want that guy near Real Madrid. I said it like I think if there was any speculation that Jose Mourinho was going to return to Real Madrid, it went down the toilet as soon as he said that. The players are not going to respect him. The players are not going to want him in the locker room. Why would you bring why would you bring someone like that into the club? One, a lot of fans have a bad taste in their mouths with Jose Mourinho. I don't think there's many people that want Jose Mourinho back in the club. Secondly, there's not a lot of players that want Jose Mourinho back in the locker room. Even his former players in Real Madrid, I don't think would want him back in the locker room, especially if he has Iker Casillas. So like, no, there's the way he left Real Madrid he should never be considered to be brought back. Carlo Ancelotti, because he didn't leave on bad terms. He left because Fiorentino Perez is an idiot. Because we had a year where we didn't win a trophy after winning La Decima, by the way. Um, and yeah, like I'm not in favor of Jose Mourinho. Um, it's gonna. You think he's gonna be able to get Kylian Mbappe to play up front? You think he's gonna be able to get Jude Bellingham to come back and defend? You think that's the guy that's gonna be able to do it? No, no. You have to get a manager that's respected and has enough pedigree for the guys to, one, respect him, but secondly, a guy that can get the best of the players because of his ability to be a player's manager. Someone that is no nonsense. I think that's very true. And more, it just seems like if you can get Jurgen Klopp here, I think it's gonna be the best. Because I think Jurgen Klopp is one, a manager that holds respect. If you're talking about if you do keep Trent Alexander-Arnold, not saying that it's possible that it's gonna happen, but if you are planning on keeping Trent Alexander-Arnold, he's a guy that Jurgen Klopp immediately has the backing, right, of that. He's a guy that can be like, hey guys, this is how Jurgen Klopp does it. This is how things are ran with Jurgen Klopp. Get in line and we're gonna do some great things here. That is an easy way to do it. I think Jurgen Klopp is more and more makes more sense to me for Real Madrid because, one, it's a name with pedigree. Jurgen Klopp is well respected for what he was able to do at Borussia Dortmund, respected for what he has done with Liverpool, and if he can do that with Real Madrid, I think it's going to be great. He's a disciplinarian. He knows how to bring structure to a team. He is a guy that everyone has to fall in line and play their role. Now, obviously, Liverpool, like I said, Liverpool is very much different from Real Madrid. I think there's a level of humbleness that Liverpool has that Real Madrid doesn't. But once again, I think his name alone garners enough respect to the likes of Vinicius Jr. and Kylian Mbappe. And I honestly don't think Jurgen Klopp is afraid to bench guys if he doesn't feel like they're going to fit to the needs that he wants. I think defensively it works better. He is a guy that can get the best out of the guys that he has right now defensively. And if he needs to bring in guys that he wants, I think that's a team. He knows how to bring in guys that are underrated and not way too expensive. And so I think Jose Mourinho is probably the guy, not Jose Mourinho. I think Jurgen Klopp, and then plus on top of that, with Jose Mourinho and Jurgen Klopp, the big benefit from them is that you don't have to wait till the World Cup. You don't have to wait till the World Cup is over. You can bring these guys in and they can start getting to work as soon as they get in. I just don't think Jose Mourinho should even at all be near the Bernabeu. He should be nowhere near the stadium. Like he should be nowhere near Madrid. He's not the guy. I think honestly, more and more, if we can get Jurgen Klopp to come into Real Madrid, I think it makes the most sense in the world. On top of that, I mean Didier Deschamps, I know he has a lot of respect for the French players, and that could be a big name. But the fact is, the dude's going to be in the World Cup during the summer, and we need a guy that could be here already looking at the team that we have and trying to figure out a way to build the team for the betterment of the club. I mean, Mauricio Pochettino, I just laugh at that. Honestly, I don't really think Pochettino is the right person for a locker room full of egos. But yeah, I digress, man. That is last thing I want is Jose Mourinho back at Real Madrid. Shoot, I would take Mauricio Pochettino if it meant the other person that was potentially going to get the job is Jose Mourinho. Give me Pochettino. I would much rather have Pochettino. I know it's gonna flop massively, but I'd still rather have that guy than Jose Mourinho back at Real Madrid. And Florentino Perez, I think, is an idiot if these rumors are in fact true. Florentino Perez is a massive moron to want to bring back Jose Mourinho, because I think once again, horrible exit. Exit did not end well. Didn't bring much success to Real Madrid. Yeah, he won one La Liga title, one Copa del Rey, and Spanish Super Cup. You really think I'm gonna flex that? So no. In his time at Real Madrid, and then once again he caused so much issues in the locker room. He almost got one of our best players to leave the club, in Iker Casillas, which, I mean, eventually he did do that. But yeah, no, I'm not at all in favor of Jose Mourinho. Honestly, if Jose Mourinho, I will honestly tell you, if Jose Mourinho is at Real Madrid, I'm just not gonna watch him. And that's a lie. I'm gonna watch him, but I'm not gonna be happy at all. And I know the players aren't gonna be happy at all, because once again, Piastrini? Is it Piastrini? Let me see. Was it Piastrini? Yeah, Prestiani. The whole Prestiani thing. Once again, Jose Mourinho handled that poorly. He handled that poorly, and was telling Vinicius if he wasn't celebrating, he wouldn't have been called a monkey. That's the guy Florentino Perez is rumored to wanting. That guy. Get real. But, all right, we're going to take a break and then go into Players of the Week.
I love soccer, Peggy.
All right, guys, Players of the Week is brought to you by SeatGeek. SeatGeek is an awesome ticketing site where you can buy all the things you need for live events when it comes to sporting events or even concerts. SeatGeek has you covered. They have a really easy grading system using numbers and colors. If it is super low and very red, that means that's not a good deal. Keep scrolling. You're going to find a better deal. If it is super high and very green, that means buy those tickets, man. Enjoy your event. Me and Ever, we love the simplicity of SeatGeek, and we use it for all the events that we attend. So if you're not sold just yet, just from that simplicity alone, if you guys use the code BellyUpSports at checkout for first-time users, you will save $20 off your first purchase. SeatGeek, life's an event. We have the tickets. My player of the week is Vinicius Jr., who scored 2 goals in Real Madrid's 2-0 victory against Espanyol, which keeps them somewhat alive in the chase for La Liga title. We'll get to this weekend's match, but so there is that. And Edwards' player is Patrick Schick, who's had a hat trick in Leverkusen's 4-1 victory against RB Leipzig. So congratulations to Vinicius Jr. and Patrick Schick for being our players of the week. Once again, guys, use that code BellyUpSports at checkout and save $20 off your first purchase. SeatGeek, life's an event. We have the tickets. All right, guys, games to watch this weekend. We have the San Jose Earthquakes taking on the Vancouver Whitecaps. So, yeah. All right, there we go. That's all we got to say on that one. I'm not gonna go any further, any of that nonsense. You feel how you feel. That's all I got to say. We also have the second leg of Liga MX playoffs, which this is something I just found out. I thought that they were going to have the first legs in the middle of the week and then have the second legs this weekend, but I am wrong. The first legs have just been played. As a matter of fact, Toluca is currently playing Pachuca. So, yeah, so leg 2, be ready for that. And then we have Celtic versus Rangers. The Old Firm Derby will be happening this weekend. So if you guys have been missing out on these matches, go ahead and watch it. We'll see what happens in this new edition of the Old Firm Derby. In Ligue 1, we have AS Monaco taking on Lille and Toulouse taking on Lyon in Ligue 1. In the Bundesliga, we got Eintracht Frankfurt taking on Borussia Dortmund and VfB Stuttgart taking on Bayer Leverkusen, which obviously, once again, we just highlighted Patrick Schick, so be on the lookout for that one. In the Serie A, we got Lazio taking on Inter Milan, who are officially, for the 21st time, winners of the Scudetto. So once again, congratulations to Inter Milan for yet another successful season. And AC Milan, who looks like they might be missing out on Champions League if they keep going on the way they're going, but they are taking on Atalanta. So we'll see what happens with AC Milan over there. In La Liga, we got Real Sociedad taking on Real Betis and El Clásico, Real Madrid, Barcelona in the Camp Nou. Real Madrid, there's so much at stake in this game, man. If Barcelona wins it, they are officially the champions of La Liga. If Real Madrid wins it, well, they survive for another day, and once again, it's win out and hope Barcelona can slip some more. But it's getting a lot of implications on this match. Funny enough, if Real Madrid would have lost to Espanyol or drawn against Espanyol, they would have to discuss potentially having a honor guard for Barcelona, which is hilarious, just because like the way the 2026 started was obviously Xabi Alonso getting sacked, and on top of that, Mbappe refusing to do a guard of honor for Barcelona. So they avoided that, but this could be the match that potentially wins Barcelona La Liga. Now, like I said, if Real Madrid finds a way and beats Barcelona, well, it extends at least a little bit, gives them more time, though it's still asking a lot. So at this point, I just want Real Madrid to win El Clásico, and yeah, because I don't see anything happen. I really don't have much faith at this point in this team, but I don't want to lose to Barcelona. Like I said plenty of times, I hate losing to Barcelona. So that's all I gotta say in La Liga. In the Premier League, we also jersey bet, right? Me and Edward. This is my last jersey bet match. So after that, it's Edward and Spencer, Barcelona versus Atletico Madrid, to decide who's going to be the winner, and it's actually a pretty close one. This is actually a very close one that it could come down to if Edward or Spencer wins it. I think if Edward wins this, Edward right now is behind. I believe he has like 9 points. So if Edward wins this, he at least jumps over me and Spencer, and potentially the winner of Barcelona Atletico Madrid is going to decide who wins the jersey bet. So that's going to be interesting. All right, so there is a quick update. I am an idiot because Atletico Madrid and Barcelona have already played. And so, yeah. So this El Clásico basically is going to dictate who wins the jersey bet between me, Edward, and Spencer. So Spencer's automatically out. But yeah, so if Edward wins or draws, he wins. If I win, then I win the jersey bet. So yeah, some little drama in El Clásico. I didn't realize it was the last match. I thought Atletico Madrid and Barcelona haven't played yet, but they have Barcelona won 2-1. So that takes Spencer out of the competition. But yeah, it's between me and Edward, and we'll see how that ends. But yeah, so there's a quick update. My bad. But yeah, also in the Premier League, we got Liverpool versus Chelsea. Obviously, Liverpool coming off of a loss against Manchester United, which Manchester United are officially now in the Champions League for next season, so congrats to them. Massive turnaround. Once again, Michael Carrick, he might be the guy. And West Ham United taking on Arsenal. West Ham United are trying to avoid the relegation zone. They are now in the relegation zone. Tottenham was able to jump over them. And Arsenal, they're not looking to bottle. Both teams have a reason to play for. So a really interesting match of who's going to give it, who wants it more. And might be a tough one right there. So obviously that's not all the matches that are being played, but that is a good amount of matches to look forward to. So with all that being said, we're going to take one more break, and then it's time for Give and Go.
Hey everyone, it's Ryan from No Credentials Required to talk to you about one of our newest partners at Belly Up Sports, SeatGeek. Yeah, live sports is great on television, but the feeling of being at the arena is a priceless experience. That's why our friends at SeatGeek are there to help you find the best tickets at the best prices. Not only can you get tickets to sporting events, but you can also get tickets to concerts, comedy shows, musicals, and more. Search for your desired event now at SeatGeek.com, enter promo code BellyUpSports at checkout, and you save $20 off your first purchase. SeatGeek. Life's an event. We have the tickets.
All right, guys. Give and Go. It is an awesome soccer card game. Every card tells a story. What's yours? Give and Go is the ultimate soccer card game packed with trivia, challenges, conversation starters that bring fans together. With 3 game-changing categories, it's designed to get everyone talking, laughing, and reliving their favorite footy moments on the couch, at the pub, or wherever the game takes you. Wherever you go, Give and Go. It is an awesome card game. Like I said, the big thing is just since we started doing this, man, it just brings in nostalgia, man. So Already shuffled. Already got the 3 cards here with me. Like I said, man, the reason why I draw 3 is normally because of, well, sometimes you get a card that probably doesn't make sense. So prime example, one of these is go around the group and make a kid jersey manufacturers. Name kid jersey manufacturers. Obviously, it's just me, so can't really do that. And then one was I've already done it before. So the question is, what is my pregame ritual? So obviously, if you guys want to know at least my backstory as far as playing the game, played middle school soccer. That's probably like the most like organized soccer that I played. But essentially the rest of it has just been playing Sunday league. Just growing up playing in leagues with some friends. But yeah, so my pregame ritual, honestly, man, like when I try to think about it, and obviously we're talking about Sunday league, right? I think obviously the big thing for me is I like to try to get to the stadium. Well, not the stadium. I like to get to the pitch early, just because I don't like rushing. I like being on time. That's just in general. I think that's also the military in me. But I like to get there early just to get like a quick lap around the pitch. Just to get warmed up, break the cleats in. Probably take a few kicks in, but obviously that's not the part that really y'all care about. My big thing whenever I played was Skittles. I like to get Skittles, have like a little sugar rush before the game starts. And then, taking a sip of Gatorade just for the electrolytes. So that was probably like the only thing, pretty boring. Obviously, I'm not like an actual player, so I don't really have anything extensive. As far as like, I didn't start taping till I was in the Marine Corps, and I just did wrist tapes. I did, wrist on both sides. I don't know. I'm more about uniformity. When it came to it, yeah, that was just like, I guess like anything that as far as my kit goes, I always wrist tape on both sides. Not because I had any wrist injuries. I just did it for just a look. I kept them very thin. I didn't really like go like thick. I usually whatever the tape, the size of the tape, the tape was, I would just like maybe two go rounds, cut there, same thing, cut there. I think for one game I did tape my ankles, and not necessarily like ankle tape, like I mean just so like my shin guards wouldn't slide down, because I am someone that believes shin guards should be on your shins. I don't really necessarily like the way the game has been now, where like guys don't even put their shin guards on their shins. I know that's just like my take on that one, but I like having I like having my socks up high. That's probably not high, like not on my knee. I would like get to my knee and then I would fold down. That was like my big thing for socks. But yeah, so my whole pregame thing was lap around the pitch just to get like a quick warm up, eat some Skittles, take a sip of Gatorade, and then game time. Do your typical warm ups for a game, right? So that's probably pretty much it. Wrist tape. That's it. Nothing really too straightforward. Once again, I never got to play at a higher level, so maybe if I played at a higher level, maybe I would have had more of some sort of pregame ritual. But my big thing was always Skittles, and yeah, Skittles, and just a lap around. So there's that. But all right, guys, that's episode 256. Thank you so much for listening. Check out bellyofsports.com. Check out all the articles that are written. Lots are happening. World Cup is very much getting closer. NBA playoffs is happening. NHL playoffs is happening. And MLB is going on. Yeah, there's still sports going on here in the United States. Obviously, we're getting more and more closer to the World Cup. We're almost at 30 days away. I think we're recording this. We're 9 days away, but yeah, we're getting closer and closer to the World Cup, and I can't wait for that. But yeah, check out Belly Up Sports, bellyupsports.com. There's some videos coming up soon for World Cup nation profiles. And follow us follow them on social media on X and Instagram at Belly Up Sports. And then also shout out to Goals TV. Obviously, got a lot of attention in the last Wake Up MLS, but yeah, check them out. Follow them on YouTube at obviously Goals TV. Follow them on X at Goals_TV and on Instagram at Goals.TV. And yeah, go ahead and give them some love, man. They're doing a lot of great things over there. Shout out to Roosevelt Spencer, man. If you're listening to the intros and outros of the audio version, and on top of that, you're listening to the ads, well, the beats are done by Roosevelt Spencer, man. He is the namesake of the Roosevelt Spencer Player of the Year Award, and it's because he is just so great to us. So if you guys need some beat work done, hit him up, man. He'll take great care of you like he always does with us. And just tell him that you need some beats, and he'll take it. Like I said, he'll take care of you. Quick housekeeping, because I'm not entirely sure. Just because there's like a big life thing happening for me right now. I'm not entirely sure if there's going to be a new episode. If there's going to be an episode next week, and the reason why is because I'm moving. I am moving because at my job that I currently work at, which I won't talk about too much. But at my current job, I got promoted to an assistant manager position, which is requiring me to move. I'll still be in Houston, but it's like a suburb in Houston. So I'm not entirely sure if I'm moving this week or the following week, but there will be maybe this week or next week that I won't have an episode, because just the big thing is then I need to get Wi-Fi and installed and all that. So at the new place. So that is kind of like the big thing. I'm not entirely sure if I'm moving, when exactly I'm moving, but because I'm still waiting on the apartment complex to tell me when I'm moving. The reason why I'm saying this week is because I'm supposed to be moving in this week. But I haven't heard anything back. Now, my first official day at the new job is actually going to be May 18th. But obviously, like, I want to have everything settled in before that. But as far as that goes, haven't heard anything back yet. So we'll find out. I'm probably gonna look into that after I'm done recording and editing this. But yeah, so that's like the big thing. It's just that's happening right now. So can't really tell you when we'll get another episode just for that part, just because once again, like I said, I'm gonna have to move some stuff, including my computer, and obviously I should have electricity by the time I get there, but the big question will be, will I have Wi-Fi? And so if I'm not around, that's probably because of that. So but we'll keep you guys posted, if anything. But with all that being said, man, yeah, thank you so much for listening. Hopefully you guys hear a new episode next week. If not, I wish everybody a happy Mother's Day. Shout out to all the moms out there. And yeah, thank you so much for listening. Catch us whenever 257 comes out. All right, take care, guys.